I swear I turned that off. There we go. It's off again. All right, so prop types. Let's step back from React for just a second and talk about dynamically typed versus statically typed, I'll say static typed languages. So this isn't React specific, this is JavaScript specific. And it's how data types are assigned in the language. Does anyone know if JavaScript is dynamically typed or if it's statically typed? It is dynamically typed, it is. So JavaScript is a dynamically typed language. And this doesn't mean language. This doesn't mean how you type your words. It's talking about the types of data. So, you know, object, array, string, number, Boolean. How do I tell JavaScript that when I declare a variable, it is a Boolean? Do I have to do anything other than saying, my bool equals true? This is dynamically typed. I didn't need to say, JavaScript, this variable is going to be a Boolean and then assign it. I can just create my variable, assign it a Boolean, and now it represents a Boolean. In other languages though, in Java and C, any of the C languages, and most other languages actually, you have to declare the type when you declare your variable. So while in JavaScript we can say const my number equals 20, in something like Java you'd have to say integer my number equals 20. And by saying int before it, you're saying the variable that I'm about to store is a number. So for strings, you'd say something like char name equals Joe. And you have to statically type each variable as you declare it. And people really like this because it gives you really big control. You have to declare your types before assigning it. Where JavaScript, if I wanted to change my number to a string, it's not going to have a problem with that if it's a let variable. But dynamically typed languages are for that purpose. You can assign any data type to any variable without declaring what type it is. So that was a mouthful, but any questions on that concept? Okay, so a dynamically typed language can sometimes be seen as dangerous because how do we know the data type other than seeing what it's assigned to? There's really no other way. You see what it's assigned to, and that's the data type. And we already covered the fact that I could change this to a number and JavaScript's not going to yell at me. But what if changing my number from a number to a string were to break my program? That's the first time I'd know about it. your number changed to a string. Let me break your program and let you know. That's not good. So if we can be let known ahead of time that the data we're using is the wrong type, it helps us in programming. So in React, there is a way to validate props. So if I'm passing a prop that's a string, I would like to have a little error message show up in my console if that thing in fact is not a string. I'd like it to say, hey, you said name should be a string, but it's actually a number. You should go check that out. So this isn't essential for React to work, but it makes your code look more professional because you're checking your data types. This is an aspect of testing that you wouldn't have to test later. You're building it into your program. So enough talking, let's see how it works. Let me make a component, just a single component here called person. Do we have, nope. Person is a function that takes props, or it's a component that takes props and returns a div. Person. And I'll import that to my app file so I can use it. And I'll put person here. Okay, what prop should we pass person? What are some good things that person may represent? Name, sure. This will be a Simba. What else? Age, 3. And maybe one more that's a different data type. It's not a string or a number. Is alive. True. Okay, so we got 3 different data types coming down. Now, person can display all these through what mechanism? How does person receive this data? What object? Props. Yeah, not a trick question, just reiterating. So props is where we're getting all this data. So I can display props.name, props.age, props.isAlive.toString. And I can get all my data to show up. That was passed down below. Well, let's say if props.name wasn't a string, this is going to break my app. And we'll have the console open here for a moment while we do this. And let's see if the console lets me know if Simba is actually a number. So instead of passing a string, we accidentally passed down the number 100. And React's like, cool, there's your 100. Doesn't let me know that my string changed to a number. It just let me do it, which is fine. We don't want it to break, but we'd at least like to be known, like, hey, you just passed name as a number. I don't think you meant to do that. So we need to set up some rules that enforce these data types. When we pass a prop, name should always be a string, age should always be a number, is alive should always be a Boolean. And if it's not, let us know. So the way to do this is a built-in node module with React, so we don't have to install anything, but we do need to import it. And what you import is PropTypes from prop-types. All this package does is checks your props, make sure they're the right type. If it's a string, I'll let you know if it's not a string, and so on. The way to use this package is right below where you declare your component. You could do it above, sure, but conventionally you'll see it more below. And we need to tell the person what types of props to expect. So we'll say person, your prop types, which is camel cased, it's not this word yet. We're saying prop types should be the following, and we give it an object of what all of its props should look like. And then we just start listing them out. So what's one prop that person is receiving? Name. So we'll say name. And then we say what type should name be? It should be, using our actual package now, it should be a PropTypes.string. And we don't see any different thing happening here, but notice what happens now when I change Simba to the number 100. Warning, 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 Will Robinson. What is it telling me? Look how specific that error message is. Failed prop type, invalid prop name of type number supplied to person, expected a string. It's like, great. Tell me where to look and what it is, and I'll go fix it. Sure enough, oh yeah, that shouldn't be a number. That should be a string. And then prop types goes away. Program's working as we expected. So let's validate the age in the is alive. So we come back to person where we're declaring what their prop type should be, and we add more to this object. We'll say your age. You want to take a guess of how we verify a number? Cool. How about the Boolean? Close. PropTypes.bool. And now we've validated all 3 of these data types, and if any of them change, it's not going to break our program, but it's going to let us know that you told me to always expect name to be a string, but you just got a number, or any of these other ones. So let's break them all, because that's what we do. 100, age is Simba, Stimba, and is alive is an array of numbers. Now I get 3 errors. Warning, name, got a number, we expected a string. Age, got a string, expected a number. And is alive, got an array, expected a Boolean. So again, this won't break your program by not using prop types, but in like production code, when you have employers or interviewers looking at your code, you want them to see this. It makes them know that you know what types are and how to enforce types, type checking. Because JavaScript is what? Dynamically typed or statically typed? Dynamically. You can say whatever you want. So let's fix this so it goes back to not breaking. Cool. Close. So let's say app was receiving a prop as well. It was receiving a prop called color equal to green. How could I then verify this prop? And I'm going to go random here because that's fun. Please work. Lynn, what would I need to do in app to verify that this prop is in fact a string? Lynn? With an L, not a... And definitely phone a friend because I know we've only looked at it once if needed. But first we got to think, what package are we using to do this? So we got to import something. So what package lets me verify my prop types? I want to help with the name of the package. What's the name of the package we need to import? Import types from prop-types. Okay, so now I have the package. And now how do I tell app to expect a prop called name or color and make sure it's a string? So first I need to declare the component, but what property of the component am I adding to? Does anyone know? Prop types. Now this is hard at first because this word and this word, even though they're the same word, the different casing is important. This has to be camel cased, this has to be uppercased. It's just this is the package and this is a property of our component. So we're going to be using this in our prop types to declare it. All right, and this is always equal to an object. And now how do I say you're going to receive a color that should be a string? First, I need to give it the key. So what's the name of the prop that's being passed? What prop is app receiving? Color. Okay, so you're going to receive color. What data type is color? String. Cool. So I'm going to say you should be a prop types dot, and here's a couple they give you, number, object. There's the one we're looking for, string. And now it's verified. So if I were to break this and change app's prop to a number, it'll also let us know. Invalid prop color was a number expected to string. So sure enough, okay, change that back to green. And it goes away. So this is something just like React, you would import on every file and declare below your component what props they are. This is a very easy thing to forget about and not do for the rest of the course. However, if you spend the extra 20 seconds it takes to type it out after every component, it'll make your code look more professional. And it will help you when you run into bugs later. You'll get more helpful console logs. So person is receiving 3. So we did 3 of these. App is receiving 1. And you'll typically only test the prop if this component is using the prop. If this component is passing it to another component, we'll test it at the end of the road. We're using these 3 here, so we're going to test it to the right type. Other things you can test. Let's say we had an array, like friends. Say prop types dot array. If we had an object like address, maybe prop types dot object. But let's say the object had specific values in it we wanted to make sure we're correct. So we could say address is the prop types dot shape, and then we can declare in here what this object should look like. It should have a street, which is a prop types dot string, maybe a zip code, which is a prop types dot string. So you can verify all sorts of things. It's not a very big node module, but there are about 100 options of things you can test. Most of the time you'll be sticking to these 4 or these 5, but every once in a while you'll want to verify the inside parts of a prop, and that's how you can do it. Where would you go though for documentation on this? If you're like, I forgot how to use prop types. What is that magical website called? reactjs.org. Come to reactjs.org and you're like, let's look at the docs and main concepts. I'm wondering if it's in here. No, it doesn't look like it's in here. So let's check advanced guides. Type checking with prop types. React.PropTypes have been moved into a different package. Please use the prop type library instead. Cool, we are. And here's the first example. They give you a component. They're testing its prop types. And then here it shows you all the different ways to test different types of props. So there's a couple. There's not, so many that you won't, you won't run into some. There are cases where a lot of these, and you can make sure it's required if you want, and be let known otherwise. But these are all the options it gives you. So it's not a giant package, but it does its trick well. So let's make the name required. And now if the prop type string name is not provided, it'll let us know you made this required, but this is undefined. So I'm going to comment out these 3 since we're not using them. That is prop types. Any questions on prop types? Use it a couple times. That's really the gist of it. What is the main reason why we do this?
Make sure we're getting like the right.
Yeah, this is an aspect of testing. If you look at job applications where like we want test-driven developers, this is one thing that you're writing for that you don't have to test later. It's already being tested. Looks good. Yeah, just lets you know. You said name should be a string, I got a number. Make sure you go check that. We want as many helpful console logs as we can get while developing, because our apps will get complex, and we need some way to decipher the complexity when things break.
So did you give the app a prop?
I did.
You can just do it directly in line like that?
Wherever I write a component, I can give it props. Just like here's my component, here's its props.
Since you didn't put props and parentheses on your app, it doesn't matter.
Oh yeah, I'm not actually using that prop right now. But if I wanted to use it, you're right, I'd have to add that word there. But this will still check for it. Okay, so this is one part of the lesson. We need to look at mapping one more time with components, because after you get done with vacation spots, there's one more exercise called Friends with Pets. And it's a little trickier, just to get you in the mindset of mapping. So I'll close this out and go back to our other file. I'll pass this out as notes soon enough. Where's my other file? CD mapping. So I'm just going to delete what we did earlier since you already have the notes. Let's delete some stuff. Delete some stuff. Okay, we're back at the beginning. Empty app.js. let's say this is my data set. I have const, I don't want to do friends with pets because that's what your assignment will be. So maybe kids with cards. Kids have cards, cool. Kids with cards is an array of objects where there's a name for the kid. This is Stevie. And they also have cards, which what data type would this probably be? Plural, how do I have plural of something? Array. So I'll say this is a Diglett. This is a Squirtle, a Charmander. This is Pokemon themed if you didn't get it. Then there's another kid with cards. This is a Joey. He also has a Diglett, but he has a Pikachu and a Charmander. And then the third friend, Mo, has a Doug Trio and a Polygon. Articuno. If you're not a Pokemon fan, I probably look like a dork right now, but that's cool. I got the first 150. Okay, so here's our kids with cards. And what I'd first do is I'd create a kid component that can list their name. But then I'd also want to list out each of their cards. So first and foremost, how many components do you think I will need to make this show the name, and then directly below the name list out the 3 cards they have? Cool, what 2 components will I need to make? Yeah, one for the kid that I'll map out here, and one for the cards that I'll map out inside of each kid, which is Inception. So let's do the first level and then use our imagination for the next. So first I'll make a kid component. I'll import React from React, const kid. It's going to receive some props and return something we can look at. Export default kid. I'll bring kid into the app.js so we can use it. And now I'd like to make an array of these kid components. So const mapped kids equals kids with cards dot map. Moroni, how could I map out a bunch of kid components that receive the name and the cards as props? Not props in here just yet. What does a callback, what does this need? I just gave it away. A function, which if we're doing ES6, what should we call if this is a kids with cards array and it's looping over each one, what should we call each one? Kid, cool. So for each kid, what do we want to return? I want to be able to use this and this, but inside of the kid component. So what am I actually mapping out here? Think vacation spots, or think the first one we did. What did we end up returning? Kid component. So every kid in that array, we're going to create a new kid component so that we can use this to display their name and their cards. So what prop will the kid need? Cool, you're thinking ahead. We need a key, and we don't have an ID right now. I might just add the ID. No, you know what? I'm not even going to worry about it. I'm just going to say your key. Your key is I, and just in case we repeat stuff, I'll say it's I plus your name, so it's really random. But what other props other than key? Because we can't use key. React just needs it. Okay, it needs a name prop. What will it be equal to? Kid.name. So we get Stevie, Joey, and Mo passed down to each kid component made. And what other prop? Cards. What will that be? Kid.cards. And then I can say display my mapped kids right here. And npm start to see if everything breaks or if it works. We're going for works. So where is this telling me to go? What's the problem? Good eye. Cool. All right, so we get our mapped kids. How come we're not seeing anything? Cool. So I'd like to display the name in an H1. How do I get the name for each kid to show up? Props.name, because that is the name of the prop I passed down when I mapped over it. Right here. And you know what? This is getting really long, so we're gonna do this and break the props up. Because we passed a name prop down that's equal to the individual kid's name. Cool. And we've got to kids. Sweet. Well, now I want to list off H3. Here are my bestest cards. He's a kid, so he's learning his English. And I would like all the cards to list out right here. But what data type is cards? What do we do with arrays in React? We map them out and create components from them. Yeah, is there any questions on what I'm leading up to right here? Is there anyone that's just like, what's the point of what's happening? Or I don't know what's happening? That's also fair. Yeah, like what are we doing right now? We've mapped out all of our kid objects to a kid component so that we can see each of their names. But then I'd like to list out all their favorite cards. And you know what? I'm going to give a little border around this so it's easier to read. And maybe some margin. So they're spaced out a little bit. Okay. So I would like Stevie's cards to list out underneath this colon, Joey's, and Mo's. But can I just here say props.cards? That didn't work. Well, what if I put it in brackets? Cool, that's a little better, except I don't know what a Diglett Pikachu Charmander is. I'd like them to list out separately, just like we're getting the name. So what am I going to do to props.cards right here? Can I map out components inside of a component that was mapped out? Yes. Yes. And what this is bringing us to is this effect. Give me 10 seconds. 9, 8, ow, 8, 8, 7, 6, 5. Where's my pen? Frantically, yes. I'm almost done. Erase page. Nope, just give me new. Don't save that. Okay. What we're leading to right here is this is our app so far, right? We have app, and it is mapping out how many friend component or kid components. Go back and look. Wrong file. There we are. How many kid components are getting mapped out? How many kids do we have? 3. So we've got, this is going to run 3 times and create 3 kid components. So from app, this branches out to kid, kid, and kid. That word is starting to lose meaning. Okay, now each kid has an array of pets. So if we did a map inside of kid, or not array of pets, an array of cards, they wish they were their pets, not their Pokemon. So each kid has their own array of pets, so they will each map out their 3 cards. And this means the same thing. So they have 3. These are all, so how many card components should we have at the end of all this? 9, because each kid has 3 and there's 3 kids. We mapped out the 3 kids and then each kid will map out their cards. So app doesn't worry about mapping out cards because app is worried about mapping out each kid component. That is what it has direct access to here, right? Give me a kid, here's his name, here's his cards. And the kid receives it. But now the kid, each individual kid, we have 3 of them now, needs to map out their cards. So do we need to make another component? What should that component be called? I think that makes sense. Card, because that's what we're mapping out. So we'll go make another file called card. Import React from React, const card, and receive some props, return some sort of magic, export default card. And here will be like card, just so we can see it. So now where am I going to import card? Where do I need to use this component? Not on app? Why not here? Yeah, I'm mapping out each kid, and each kid is being given their array of cards as a prop. So each kid is going to receive props.cards that we can create a card component for each one. So const mapped cards equals props.cards.map. And what do we want to return for each card? Yes, now we're not looping over an array of objects, right? We're looping over an array of strings. So here we had to say kid.name, kid.cards, because it's an object. But when you're looping over a string, this word represents the string. So in kid, this callback function that we give, for each card, for all the cards, for each card, give me the following. This is the card. This is the whole string. It's not an object. I don't have to say card.card or anything like that. I can just say put the card directly in a tag. Right now, I'm not going to show it, but let's just, what am I missing here? Why am I putting an H1? What should I be doing? Card. That breaks everything. Why? Yeah, we had an imported card. Yeah, and then I need to put this in my div so it shows up. So mapped cards. Card. How many card components do we have? Here's 3, here's 3, here's 3. So we know it's looping over the card. But I'm just saying show card. So how do I show the actual card value? Have I passed that prop down? First I got to pass it down. Where do I pass it down at? Yeah. So you're going to receive a prop called card equal to the card. And now that's not looking like a word either. Now I have a props.card. And I have a mapped component mapping out components.
All that word.
You know what's sweet about this though? There's a big, great thing that happens when you get this set up. What if your data changes? What if another kid joins the group? It just gets added to the list. The UI is done. I don't have to worry about it. If this list grows to be all the kids in the neighborhood and they're all Mo, it's a weird neighborhood. We've got the whole list made for us. So as soon as we build up the mechanism of create this from this, we can just keep expanding our data, changing our data, and React does what it does best. It reacts. No one wants that many mows in a neighborhood, though. So I am not going to pass this out as notes just yet, but I will leave it up here because conceptually it is no different than what you're doing with the vacation spots. It's just doing it one more time. Think vacation spots. I map out my spots, but what if each spot had an array of, you know, top destinations at that spot? You'd have to list that out and make a destination component for each one. That is effectively what this is doing. And one last thing. If you're not using React DevTools yet, start getting acquainted with it because it will really help you visualize this in the early stages. If we come into React DevTools, you'll see here's our app, great. Here's the 3 kids we made, and it even lets us know, here's the props that kid has. If you want to look at them, here they are, great. Each kid then maps out their name and 3 card components. And each card displays the name. So we start off with 3 kids, but then they do their own map to make 3 cards. And if the card has its own array, it could map out another component, which just takes that deeper and deeper. And now you're pros at passing props. Congrats. Now, any questions on this process, though? Repeating this prop passing pattern to go a level deeper. First, we mapped out the kids, so we got our 3. The kid receives their card, so while it just displays their name, it maps out card components to display each 3 cards. And this one is generated 9 times for the 9 cards. What's that? You do. Yep, anytime you do a map, it's going to break. It's going to yell at you. This doesn't have a key. So good reminder. Let's throw that in. What's also cool, I mean, we saw that if I added to this full array that we get a whole nother component. But what if Mo, you know, had a good day and picked up a Charizard and a Moltres? Well, Stevie will still have 3, Joey will still have 3, but Mo's array was larger, so it got mapped out larger. React is just dynamically creating stuff because we're using this higher order method, map, that loops for us and generates the arrays we need, the arrays of components. So the exercise, it's not kids with cards, it's friends with pets. Same concept though. You'll have a friend list component that you put in app. Friend list should receive the entire array. So you'll be making 4 components in this, not 3. You'll have app that renders friend list. Let's draw this out. Let's visualize. Dang it, give me 2 seconds. 2, 1, plug in. So you'll have your app that renders a friend list component. Now in app is where you will have your array of friends provided by the assignment, and you'll pass the entire array of objects down as props. So friend list receives the props.friends. Friend list needs to map out all the friend components, but each friend has an array of pets. So each friend would then map out their array of pet components. And this is what you're making as the second exercise today. Does that make any visual sense, the scribble?
Oh, they only have 1.
If they only have 1 pet, only 1 will show up because we're using map. So even if there's only 1, it will still be an array. You still want to map it out, so it still shows up the same. But here's the data you'll be given to work with. Array of friends, here's your object. So it has a name of Ben and age of 29, but then an array of pet objects that you then map out for the pet component. So how many name components? If we have Jacob, Marcus, Bob, and Ben, how many friend components will we map out? 4. Now, if Ben has 3 pets, Bob has 1 pet, Marcus has 2, and Jacob has 4, it's about 10 pet components. Yeah. You don't have to write it 10 times. You write those components once, make map do all the work. Okay. That is that.